Yo, what's good, y'all? My name is Emad, and in this video, I'm going to be going over exactly how I help coaches and consultants scale past 30K a month in profit in 60 days, leveraging the IG and YouTube funnel on a pay and results basis. So if you have no idea what that means, I'm going to be jumping into exactly, the whole blueprint, the whole funnel, that will actually help every business scale to at least 30K a month. So firstly, you can see, obviously, we create long form sale assets. Don't worry, we're going to get into all of this. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, we're going to get into all of what I'm talking about, but we create long form sales assets, short form content. After that, we place a highly trained setter to turn those views into actual clients into your business and then guarantee your next 5 to 10 clients. So that's basically a brief overview. And then as you can see, the biggest thing is that we achieve this without spending anything on ads, without sending thousands of cold outreach, and without having to spend 20 to 25 hours a week doing everything by yourself. So I think that's one of the most important things. We're going to be doing everything for you. No ads, none of that BS. And of course, as you can see here, don't continue watching this if you don't have the capacity to actually sign an additional 5 to 10 new clients in the next 60 days. So this is only for businesses that are actually trying to scale right now because our service is extremely custom. So we have a set amount of people that we actually want to work with. So again, if you're not actually willing to, put the work in or even scale your business, then just click off the video. But for the people that are actually trying to scale their business, want to hit way higher profits than whatever you're hitting right now, we're going to be getting into how this blueprint will actually help your business specifically. So firstly, what are we going to cover? Firstly, we have the expected ROI and results you can get, how to get people raving to actually buy your services, how we create sales assets to drive and nurture traffic, how we build the back end funnels and systems for your sales assets, placement and onboarding of highly trained setters. So we're just going to hire some nice highly trained setters, how we scale and launch the actual offers, how we're going to guarantee results, and addressing all your concerns. And lastly, list the people that this will actually not work for. And keep in mind that at any point in this presentation, there's going to be like a link down below where my mouse is pointing around here, where you can actually schedule a no obligation strategy call with myself to determine if this is actually the right fit for you. So with that being said, let's actually jump right into how we can get this started. So firstly, who am I? My name is Emad, like I said, and my mission is simple. I help coaches grow, scale their business, and get the results they deserve, right? So I do this by specializing, giving you strategies, support, tools, all of that. And yeah, that's basically all I'm gonna do for you guys. So I'm gonna actually take your business way further than you guys would ever think is possible, because a lot of people have some trash, funnel setups and they're at that 20K mark and they want to scale higher, and it's really easy. So whether it's, again, refining your approach, building strong connections, unlocking new growth opportunities, I'm here for all of you guys. So that's another thing. All right. And then another thing is this disclaimer. This only works if you already have clients, if you're stuck around that 5 to 20K mark. But if you're selling a low ticket offer, like let's say a $29 school program or whatever monthly, this will not work for you guys. However, again, if you actually are selling that, if you're selling a low ticket program and you want to actually transition into selling high ticket products around at least $3,000 USD, then just stick towards the end of this video, and you need an audience of around 3,000 to 5,000 people to actually do some damage. So hope that makes sense. Now, let's actually get into how we can get people actually wanting to buy your services. So this system is pretty simple, right? We'll basically explain it right here. So firstly, we have capture your actual audience's attention, right? So here, attention, capture attention, nurture it. Then you go to the sales process, then you close it, okay? So it seems really simple. We're actually gonna get way more into depth on how this actually works. So firstly, we have the market research. This is one of the most important steps. This is basically figure out what your audience actually wants, you know what I mean? Because when we create the offer, we want an offer that your audience would actually relate to. If it's an offer that doesn't really help your target audience out, then they're not gonna wanna pay. So the best way to generate attention is to figure out what people actually want to pay attention to. We start this firstly because it's going to influence every single thing we do later on. So if we don't nail the actual market research down, nothing else is going to work, if that makes sense. And again, this method is figuring out what people actually want to buy. The way that we do this is by directly asking them, right? We're going to directly ask the market exactly what they want. And how that works is we're going to basically run interviews with potential students, and we're going to ask them a specific set of questions that will give us a much better understanding of what they actually want. And then this way we can obviously make the offer based off what the actual market wants to buy. And that will obviously dramatically boost the sales you're going to get. So the questions we'd actually like to ask goes as follows. So you can see here, if we click on this, we obviously have firstly, Why did you want to get started with whatever the niche is, and why do you want to scale it? What's the main goal you actually have? What are the roadblocks that's actually stopping you from achieving these goals? What would be a realistic timeline if you had a step-by-step action plan to achieve those goals? And what's your desired timeline? What have you tried previously? What worked? What didn't? And lastly, what was the experience you've had trying to scale your business? So these are just some examples of the questions we're actually going to ask. As soon as we ask these questions and we gather information based on your actual audience, the next step is actually creating the offer. So when we're creating the offer, you can see it's going to look something like this. I will help you get whatever result. So let's say, for example, most of the people that we interviewed, right? The majority of them said they want to hit $10,000. Okay. So the offer looked like, I will help you hit $10,000. The majority of them said in around 90 days. So bang, I will help you hit $10,000 in 90 days without, and let's say most of your audience struggle with paid ads, right? They don't want to do paid ads. They don't want to do any of that. So you'd say, I will help you hit $10,000 in 90 days without any paid ads. And then obviously a guarantee could be, if you don't hit that in 90 days, we'll continue working with you until you do. Something like that. Again, as you can see in the bottom, the end result is basically the common goal mentioned in the previous calls. The time frame is basically the common time frame mentioned in the interviews or the previous calls. The roadblock is because the common things that people tried that didn't work. So for example, I said like paid ads, just an example, but whatever doesn't work for the actual people, we're going to put that as the roadblock. And then obviously the guarantee is a conditional guarantee that we will actually help you create. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go into actually how we create sales assets and client nurture funnels. So this is probably the most important step. We're going to break it down again step by step. Firstly, if you guys don't know what sales assets are, they're basically known as anything in the video, text, or audio form that basically tries to convey some sort of value that's basically going to attract someone to your product or service. So basically the reason why we create these is pretty self-explanatory, but it's basically because we want to capture as much of the market as possible to the point where we're creating a lot of warm buyers, right? So that's the most important thing. We want to build a lot of warm buyers, people that actually know about your product and service, compared to cold buyers that know nothing about your service, right? And then obviously that will create buyer intent, which is pretty important. So step one, sales assets. Once we actually have the offer, after doing the market research, we're going to actually build the sale assets. So there's a few key assets that we build out, but we're going to describe them all here. The first one's called a VSL. So I'm sure you guys have heard the term VSL, right? And we're going to break down exactly how we're going to create that VSL for you and how we're going to help you script one. Our team will be responsible for editing it, and I'll personally help you script this out. So yeah, and a VSL, if you guys don't know what it is, it's basically like that video that people kind of watch before they actually, let's say they're interested in an offer. We're going to create like this nice video that will actually help the audience, relate to the offer. They actually want to buy it. So this video will do a lot for you guys. Again, you can see having this video actually made will obviously give you a 20 to 30% increase in qualified sales calls, a 20% increase in show-ups, a 15 to 20% increase in close rates because the prospects are warmer. So like I said, having an actual VSL will make the prospects warmer. They'll know more about your service, and that's what this is all about, right? So again, this is a requirement, and once your offer is made, we're going to assist you with this straight away. All right, now let's move on to actual short and long form content. So our team basically will craft and distribute at least 25 of these every single month for you when it comes to editing, distribution of these sales assets. So what that would look like is basically we're going to have an editor that, kind of uploads these videos, all that stuff. We're going to upload to Google Drive. So first we create the Google Drive folder. We're going to upload the videos to there. You can see here, that's what it looked like. And then after, the editors will get notified, as you can see here in the far right screenshot. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they'll basically get notified just like that, that they actually need to edit the video. Once they edit the video, it's going to go back here to the Google Drive and just rinse and repeat that process. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you'll get a dedicated editor that will edit in the exact style you want. And you'll also get a social media manager that'll post the content for you. So we do this consistently to actually get in front of people every single day, 5 times a week at least. And every week you're actually going to meet up with the team to discuss overall strategies that we'll be using for content to get more eyeballs and engagement, because that's what it's all about. And I'm going to explain exactly why we actually need this engagement later on. But you can see these are some of the assets that are meant to, generate tons of traffic, because it's based off what people in your audience actually wants. Again, that goes back to the market research. It all just depends on what your audience actually wants. You don't want to create an offer that your audience would not want at all. So you can see, for example, how you can add an extra 10 to 30K a month. So again, that would be, like we said, the end result. And that 90 days would be the timeline. And the roadblock would be without any ads. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And then these assets, again, will generate tons of traffic because your audience actually wants that. Again, daily, we should collect around 10 to 15 opt-ins to the email list every single day, even with small audiences. And here we'll actually help you write these documents and break down that we actually have the SOPs to go over them step by step. So you can see here, we have like a whole breakdown of what exactly a sales letter is, all the information about it. And again, this is actually necessary. Like, these assets will actually be responsible for warming up those cold leads who don't know much about you. So that goes back to the people, those cold leads, those cold people that don't know anything about you, about your product. Having all of this set up, the sales assets, all of that will actually warm them up and actually, create that urgency where they're like, okay, maybe I should take a look at this. Maybe I should take a look at the service. You know what I mean? So again, this is really important. They'll act as your why should I listen to your answer every single time, right? So that's really important, because at the end of the day, a cold person that won't buy, or a cold buyer, will always have that mindset. It's like, why should I listen to you? So having that answer every single time someone even lands a prospect on your profile. So again, having that why should I listen to you answer every single time someone lands on your profile is really important. It can create their get their attention just like that. So that's really important. And again, having that why should I listen to you answer at the every time someone lands on your actual profile is really, really, really important, right? Because if someone just lands on your profile, they're a cold buyer, automatically having that why should I listen to you answer will obviously create that urgency. And again, this will be necessary, and it'll act as your lead magnet that will be using people to get interested in your offer and into your nurture funnel. So like I just said, having this whole sales assets funnel set up will again warm up those cold buyers and eventually get them to buy your product or service. So step 2, let's get into actual client nurture funnels. This is a big diagram. You guys may have no idea what this actually looks like. Let's zoom in here. But I'm going to be going step by step on how this whole thing works. And again, this is responsible for taking the users down a journey that will actually make it easy for them to convert. So let's actually get started on how this works. All right, so at the top here, you can see complete cold traffic. So what this means is any organic content, Instagram Reels, YouTube videos, anything like that. That's what the cold traffic is. So boosted ads, you can go down that pathway, whatever. So that's what basically the cold traffic means, any organic content, right? From either the Instagram Reels, the YouTube, the whatever it is, you always want to lead them into here. Just follow the mouse. You want to lead them into this thing called warm traffic. So basically, we're going to lead them, those engaged people, into here where they can put their email in, whatever. So from here, again, from the organic content, we lead them to here. From here, we're going to lead them into either 3 of these things. YouTube long form content, which is really important because it actually warm up those buyers and create way more information for them so they'd actually want to buy your service. We have the email list and newsletters, so we can do email marketing and always remind them about the service. And then we also have the VSL that we just talked about, which is probably the most important thing, and actually getting your buyer to get that service. So again, cold traffic at the top, warm them up, give them a lead either through email, whatever. Break it down into 3 categories. From these 3 categories, you want to bring them to the call to action. So what this basically means is now they're going to be going either through a DM conversation, or from the CTA, they can go straight to the sales call. So look at this right now. As you can see in the DM conversation, this red thing right here that my mouse is pointing on, to the right we have a DM setter. So we're going to be getting into that, but we're basically going to be hiring people that will actually take the DMs, close the DMs for you, all of that. And then once they actually do take part of that conversation, we're going to try getting that into an actual sales call. And once we actually do book that sales call, we're going to also hire a highly trained, skilled, high ticket closer that will actually take these calls for you. They'll launch the offer, as you can see where my mouse is right here. And then from there, we're going to close that and get around $2,500 at least to $12,000 cash. Once we get that, bang, you can see right here, reinvest that back into the cold traffic, all the way up here, boosted ads, organic content, whatever, go back into the lead, 3 categories, bring it to CTA, DM conversation, sales call, offer, cash, repeat. Easy as that. Like, this is really simple, and I'm telling you guys, this is so key into actually getting your buyer warmed up, you know what I mean, and actually it's making it so much easier for them to convert. So this process will literally, you guys can see here, actually, it's the perfect example, actually, because you can see in this diagram, this little pyramid, we have The people that are not problem aware, 60% of the people that are actually problem aware, 20%, the people that are actually gathering the info, 17%, and the people that are actually ready to buy your service, only 3%. So again, only 3% of the people are actually ready to buy now. And as you can see, while everyone focuses on actually targeting the top 3% of the people that are actually ready to buy, there's a whole 97% of other people that are not yet tapped into. So that means they have no idea if they're going to buy or not. They're not actually ready. And the problem with most businesses is that they only focus on that top 3%. So what we actually do is, because, again, you can see here, no one's willing to capture, nurture, and educate the other 97% of the people. So this is why we build, again, our client nurture funnels, which is basically, again, like I said, these things right here, this whole diagram. This whole diagram is basically for that other 97% of people that actually are not ready to buy yet. We're going to warm them up and get them to actually buy your service. So as you can see, we take care of that whole process of creating, editing, distributing content, and obviously the creation of the funnels and backend systems to support it. And again, this is how we capture nurture, just like I mentioned, in this whole step-by-step process above. So from here, once we actually do build up these whole funnels, we're going to obviously get the other 97% of people wanting to actually buy your services, just like that. Now, that brings us on to actually, like I said, how we're going to highly train. Now, that actually brings us on to how we're actually going to hire the highly trained appointment setters. So basically how this works is an appointment setter, and we're going to basically place these highly trained appointment setters. They're going to interact with every single person, right, that will like your post, every single person that comments on your post, every single person that follows you, request to even join a group, and engage with your stories. So every single person that actually does this, we're going to be hiring a appointment setter for that specific role. And they're going to be using, obviously, our inbound setting protocol that's responsible for helping our clients. So these are actually a few examples of the training that we've actually set up that every single setter has gone through. So you can see here, obviously, we have a brief overview of how this works. But then in this right here, you can see there's a whole bunch of training that these setters actually have to go through. So we're only hiring the best of the best. They go through tons of phases: why people buy service, setting up the prospecting assets, how to find leads, how to start a conversation, how to carry the conversation. So these guys are going to be well trained so we can actually get as many sales, as many clients as possible into your service. So that makes pretty much sense. And then you can see here we have more trading there. Obviously, I had to share these exact strategies, but this is obviously information that we implement for our clients only, so they never have to worry about booking appointments or getting on sales calls ever again. And the best part about all of this whole process I'm talking about, is because you don't have to learn this by yourself. The setter that we place for you is already trained again on all of these strategies. So that means they get extensive one-on-one sessions with me on exactly how to do the same thing in your market. So you don't have to learn any of this. The setter is already highly trained by me. Now, when it comes to our actual process, and again, you can see in the screenshot more training here, but when it actually comes to the process of getting the appointment setter, we actually have an exclusive community where we place talent, train them upon, and post that job. So when it actually comes to getting the appointment setter, we actually have a whole exclusive community where we place talent, train them, and obviously post that job. And after your offer has been made, you're going to submit a job post with all the information about your offer, the price point, the requirements, and the time zone. So it looks something like this. We're going to put this in our private community so we can actually get the best setters for your job. But you have to have kind of fill out a form just like this so we can actually figure out if you're a good fit to work with these other setters and if they're a good fit for you guys. So you can see, this is one example. They put their name here, sales coach looking for a setter. Offer details, you can see offer 1, helping coaches, blah, blah, blah. That's their offer. The client ticket price, so around how much they actually want to sell a ticket for. The time zone, EST, ideal client, blah, blah, blah. Compensation fee, the earning potential, responsibilities, and the commitment. So that's all really important. Now, once we actually do get a few applications, we're going to actually interview them one-on-one and book that call with you, introduce it to them, and get them onboarded. And then obviously we're going to track their performance at the end of every single day to see how many conversations they had, how many booking list links were sent, and how many book calls, so we can actually troubleshoot their performance. So you can see this is an example. This guy's name was Dominic, one of our setters, and you can see number of outbound set, number of conversations started, number of booking call, link sent, number of total calls booked, and then again, you can see their performance rating and all of that stuff. So we're going to have this at the end of every single day. We're going to also meet up with every single member on the acquisition team at least 3 times a week to troubleshoot and monitor campaigns so that look like something like this. And then again, just to show you guys the whole process, we're going to create the offer after the market research. So that's the first step here. Then we're going to obviously make that job post for the appointment setter in that private community. So yeah, the job post gets posted into the private community with only trained appointment setters. Then the applications are made, interviews start, and then we pick our candidate, onboard them slowly, and from there, that's when all the sales will come in. Now, let's actually move on to how we're going to launch and scale the offers. Now, let's actually move on to how we're going to actually launch and scale the offers. So, let's just do a quick summary of what we actually talked about. As you guys can see here, we do a market research. So, we know exactly what the people want to buy. From that research, we're going to create an offer for you guys. Then we're going to help you create the sales assets based off that research and the funnels. And then we're going to place a highly trained setter, again, into your business and generate appointments on autopilot. So, that's basically how that would look like. Now, let's talk about how we're actually going to launch the offers, right? Now let's actually talk about how we're actually going to launch those offers. So first of all, we're going to start by releasing the master document, and in that document, we're going to link it back to the VSL. Again, that video that we're actually going to help you create. So it look like something like this, or something like exactly like this. We're just going to link it back to the VSL. Then what we're going to do is release all the content pieces. So short form content, long form documents that we're going to help you create. And then the appointment setter that we're going to hire is going to start to actually reach out to every single person that engages with those assets using our inbound setting science protocol. So the daily KPIs for them is to reach out. Oh, my bad. So the daily KPIs for them is to actually reach out to around 100 new people every single day and get at least 50 follow-ups. This should equate to at least 2 to 3 calls a day, bare minimum, with the average closing rate of warm calls to be around 30 to 40%. Doing the math, you should be able to bring in 3 new deals at least every single week, bare minimum. And usually after something like this is launched, calendars are usually booked out. So that's pretty good. And then we obviously have the phase 2 direct offer. This is where we're going to do a direct offer to the marketplace. So this serves a few things. We're going to firstly make the audience aware that the launch is happening. That's the first thing. Then we're going to obviously define the offer. Then we're going to actually define who the offer is for and who it's not for. Then we're going to lay out very clearly the goal for the actual offer. Then we're going to explain to this exact detail what's actually going to happen throughout this whole process. Then we're going to let people know about the guarantee, which is really important because having that guarantee is actually going to get people to, trust the actual service. You know what I mean? And then engage scarcity and urgency by letting people know that there's actually a limited amount of spots. And once the actual limited amount of spots is taken, the price will actually go up. So in this case, it says 20 students. But here's actually an example of what it would look like. So this is a perfect example. Basically, it says I'm looking for 10 people. So right off the bat, bang, 10 people. That automatically, makes people think, okay, there's a limited amount of spots. I have to get on this as soon as possible. That creates that sense of urgency that we just talked about. Bang, so I'm looking for 10 people that are looking to scale their agency to 30K a month in the next 120 days. So that's that market research coming in, figuring out what the audience actually wants. So around 30K a month, the timeline in around 120 days. Then we obviously have the roadblock right here without doing paid ads, spamming outreach, and using my growth formula. So that's really important. That's the roadblock right there. And then lastly, just to ice it up, we have the guarantee at the bottom that says, I will continue to work with you until you actually do hit that 30K a month goal. So that's perfect. And then obviously you can see this can be either released as an image, a YouTube video, email, tweet, whatever. I'm going to launch this on all the available platforms that your audience is actually on. So that goes more into how we're actually going to launch and scale the offers. All right, so this is kind of the step-by-step process of everything we just talked about. So firstly, we have the onboarding form. So the onboarding form and instructions get sent to your email. Then based on the form you fill out, we're going to create the action steps that we're actually going to take. We're going to do a business health audit to actually figure out where we are. Then we're going to do the market research, which is really important. Again, creation of the market research form. Set up the first initial interviews with the questions that we're going to ask, like we just talked about. Then from there, we're going to actually craft the offer and actually either improve the offer. And based off the market research, again, we're going to improve that offer, craft it. And then obviously we have the sales letter and VSL script creation after that. So we're going to help you first with the sales letter, then the VSL based off the research that we've done. And this is going to obviously give us the concept pillars that we talk about for our sales assets. Now, this is where things get, way better because we're going to actually talk about the client nurture and funnels and backend setup. So let me move my camera here. Here we're actually going to build the actual landing page for the VSL. We're going to build the automations in the backend when people actually opt into that landing page, which is really important. From there, after we do that client nurture funnel setup that we talked about, we're going to source and onboard the appointment setter. So like we said that we talked about, we're going to actually post that job into the private community with all the tracking sheets, EOD forms, all of that. Then we're going to interview potential candidates, and when we find the right one, we're going to place them straight into your company. They're going to undergo all that training to make sure they're actually fully fit for this role. Then after that, we're going to go into launch and content distribution. So approximately after 7 to 10 days after your first bits of content should be produced, edited, and distributed by my team. So these will actually be used to generate more attention and engagement that the appointment setter will actually start to use to actually get the calls warmed up and not get those cold buyers that really don't know anything about your service. So that's really what that's all about. And that's really important. Actually launching that content will warm up the buyers, so it'll make the job for the setter way easier. Now then, step 9, we have weekly check-ins. Every week we're going to have check-ins with the whole team, probably around 3 weekly meetings, and with the acquisition team to make sure that they're actually hitting the KPIs and completing the AOD forms. And lastly, scaling and hiring, so creating SOPs for closers once you've got momentum and you don't want to be taking the calls anymore, right? And obviously at the bottom of every slide, you guys can see you can schedule a discovery call with me to see if we can build a system for you guys. So that's how that works. Now, how do we guarantee results? What happens if the content doesn't perform? So every single week, we're actually going to have weekly reviews, like I just said, about the content. And we have social media specialists also placed in your companies that will produce reports to give us action steps for the week, making sure that we're reaching as many people as possible. So that's kind of how that works. And then again, what happens if the setter doesn't perform, or what if the setter leaves? Well, 3 times every single week, like we said, multiple times, we're going to meet up with the setting team, see their performance. So we're going to actually be the first to know if they're not doing their job, if someone's not performing. Now, we have data from many different campaigns that we actually ran for coaches, consultants, B2B, B2C conversations. So we actually know exactly what to say and how to get people to jump on calls. And lastly, if the setter actually decides to leave, we're going to replace them with another setter free of charge. So you guys don't have to pay anything. We're going to place that for you guys. And again, we operate on a complete 100% satisfaction guarantee. All right, so let's hop into the next thing. One of the last slides is addressing your concerns. I'm going to make this really quick, but the common concern is what is the actual cost associated with the process like this. So this system is actually a model where we build an acquisition system into your business, like we talked about this whole presentation, and you're going to keep it once it starts to actually make you money. So the price is actually completely custom depending on where you are, what you want to achieve. Now keep in mind the potential is to at least bring you 5 to 10 new clients and scale from there. And our pricing is usually less than the cost of one client to actually ensure that you're profitable. Now, to continue, we operate on a threshold basis. So we only charge you monthly once you've actually made a certain amount of money from our services, usually double the investment. That brings us to question 2. What do you mean by you help us write the scripts and long form copy for this? So what this means is we'll basically provide you with all the assets necessary to create the content that will attract people that you actually want to work with. What if this doesn't work for my business is the third question. Well, each business is obviously unique. So before we offer any sort of plan, we're going to have a no obligation discovery call to figure out if you're a good fit in the first place. If you're not, you won't get an offer. So again, that's like the call, that link at the bottom of almost every single slide that I was talking about, where you can book a call with me and we can see if you're actually a good fit to work with us in the first place. And again, if you're not, you won't get the offer. We make sure to have weekly sessions, business health checks, which is really important and underrated, and regular communication to ensure everyone knows exactly where they're at. And for the unlikely event that we bring you on and our system doesn't work for you, we're actually going to offer you a full refund, and you get to keep all the systems that we built for you guys. So that's how that works. And lastly, again, just as we talked about the last slide, what if the appointment setter or closer leaves? If this happens, it's our duty to actually replace them for you free of charge. So it won't cost anything to actually get a new replacement, and their ramp up process starts from there again. And then lastly, the money back guarantee. So we guarantee that within around 6 months, if you don't make around 10K completely from our services, assuming you do everything we tell you to, we're going to offer you a full refund with no questions asked. You get to keep all the systems that we built for you guys and everything that you need in place to hit the goals that you want to hit in the future. So that wraps up this whole presentation of my actual funnel that I use to scale those coaches into 30K at least per month. Again, if you guys want, you can always schedule a discovery call with me, myself personally, to see if we can actually build the system for you and if we're an actual good fit. But that wraps up the whole video. Again, it's kind of how we're going to scale you guys past at least 30K a month, right? Because that's only around 5 to 10 new clients, which is easy, right? And again, like we said, we're going to offer you a full refund if this whole system, this whole funnel process that I was talking about does not work, which is really unlikely. But that's about it for this video. It's been Emad. If you guys have any questions, you can DM me on Instagram. But if you guys actually want to schedule that call, again, it's at the bottom of every single link. So you guys can go ahead and book that call with me if that's cool with you guys. But that's about it for this video, and I'll see you guys.